The Strategy and Policy Meeting, SPC 24/6, open. The meeting is live streamed, so be aware of that, the consequences of that. Since I did a karakia at the council meeting, I won't repeat that one here. I don't think there's any apologies or late items. Are there any declarations of interest on this one, please? No? Okay. There are no public excluded items. I don't see anyone for public forum. So I'll move on to, no presentation, sorry. So we'll move on to item 10, the reports. And that, the first one is the adoption of the draft Dangerous, Affected and Insanitary Buildings Policy 2024 for consultation. I have Charlotte here to introduce this one for us. Charlotte.
Good morning, councillors. So the draft Dangerous, Affected and Insanitary Buildings Policy has been reviewed largely to meet legislative requirements. We are proposing to adopt for public consultation, with one amendment to the report being that consultation is proposed to run from the 16th of September to the 16th of October. I'm happy to take the report as read and answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions for Charlotte and the team? No? Okay, in which case we're looking for a mover and seconder for those three recommendations, noting that it's being adopted for public consultation, 16th of September to the 16th of October. So do I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Wickers, Councillor Murray Benge. Any debate? No? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, and the next item is the adoption of the Tech Park Strategic Plan from page 25 onwards. So I guess in place of Cheryl, we've got Matt. Oh no, Cheryl's online, I can see you there. Thank you. Hi, Cheryl.
Kia ora, hi. So just three quick points about what we've done. So it's the first strategic plan that we've done for Tech Park. And it's really putting in place some structure and clear priorities about what we want for the future of the park. It is intended as a long-term document, and it is very much based on the feedback that we've received through the engagement. We've got a separate action plan that will manage at a staff level between TCC and Western Bay, and that just enables us to connect in work programs, look at what funding we have, use it as a basis for our LTP discussions in terms of resourcing and things like that. And also look at where we might have external funding opportunities. And as it is a joint plan, Tauranga City Council will be adopting it at a later stage once they kind of get to this. Obviously, they've got a few other priorities at the moment, but Western Bay is the lead agency, so at a senior staff level, they were comfortable with us progressing with this at this point in time. So that's it from me.
Thank you, Cheryl. Are there any questions to ask? Councillor Murray Benge.
I've been interested in the Tech Park for a long time, and I was here at the time when it was being established, and Glenn Snellgrove was very much the driver of it, and with Tech coming in, it meant that it was affordable. My question is really, throughout the report, there is nothing there about the noisy aspects that were meant that those activities that were occurring in the urban community, which were so noisy, they had to go somewhere, and that's why the Tech Park is so important. But there's nothing in that recommendation or the plan to actually acknowledge as to why it was first established. That's my first question, sir. Why not?
So that is in the plan. So when in the introduction, it talks about Tech Park, and it recognises when it was open that it brought the initial vision of an active sports park to life, recognising that it was going to accommodate high energy activities like motorsports and shooting, which were being displaced by sub-regional growth. So we have put that context in there. We spoke to all the different user groups, and there's a whole goal in there which kind of reflects the need to kind of continue to support those groups and what they do. So there is some context in there.
Right. My second question, sir, is I remember well there was a little hapu that were involved right from the beginning. And I don't know my Maori iwis, but the issue of have they been excluded? Because it seems as though there's wider iwi involvement now than there were. They were petrified that Te Arawa would have an influence over them and they were small and they didn't want to be excluded. And they were the ones who were on the land where we established the park in the first place.
So I'll just talk about the plan, and then perhaps Peter can kind of talk about that relationship, because I see that he's online as well. So through development of the plan, there's 7 different iwi and hapu groups that have an interest in the park. We spoke quite extensively with Ngai Tamarawaho and Tapueka, because it worked out that we were able to do that. But what we've reflected in the plan is the need to just have that ongoing relationship, understand the different interests in the park and what that relationship looks like for the different iwi and hapu. So that's what we've kind of reflected in the plan, but perhaps I'll let Peter talk about the initial kind of relationship when the park was first developed, if he's able to. There he is.
Sure.
Next question is...
One at a time, Councillor Mobenj. Peter, did you want to comment on that? I mean, I do notice on page 43 it does talk about all the iwi and hapu that have been who have participated in this. So, but perhaps you want to add some more flavour to that, Peter?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, so Councillor Murray Burns, the original, I think, person he's talking about was Goru Rauranui. Unfortunately, Goru's passed on, but we have continued to work with that particular hapu. They haven't been excluded in any way. If anything, we've been inviting and developing our relationships where we can with tangata whenua. We have different interests since the park was first purchased. For example, Tapueka have had their settlement now, and their catchment for the Te Marawa Kaituna extends right up to the park, because that's the beginning of the catchment to the Kaituna River. So we have embraced them and coming on board and with some few ideas, and they've been doing catchment monitoring as part of their settlement stuff and the work they've been doing. And there's opportunity in there for us to work with like the Rapani and their work schemes and stuff that could have an opportunity in the park for future planting and work and monitoring as they're kind of doing at the moment. So we see it's a positive thing going forward. We'll always embrace, and we're wanting to, part of the strategic plan looks at trying to, establish, so when you go into the park, you do get a sense of, Māori history up there, and it might be through Poe and design and bits and pieces, interpretation panels. That's what we'd like to increase that education opportunity, which is one of the park's underlying things as well. So we want to do that going forward with tangata whenua and at their pace and their knowledge.
Sir, I'm not opposed to that in any way. I think that's good to remember the history. But for the average person going up there, finding your way around is really quite difficult. And so the signage generally, I think, could be improved. Peter, your comment, please.
Well, we did quite a elaborate upgrade of the signage a few years ago, and that involved consultation for all the user groups to also identify their needs, because some people were finding it difficult to find, for example, where the shooting clubs were and stuff like that. So we engaged with the user groups and increased the signage up there. And I think it works relatively well, because not only do we have to get people into the park in their various places, we also need to reverse that signage on getting them out in the case of an emergency. So I think Bill and his team have done a good job there in making that, but we'll take that on board and address any feedback we get on it.
Yeah, we did. I think we did kind of recognise that in one of the goals, just because that was a bit of feedback around navigation and stuff. So I think what you're saying, Councillor Benj, is around starting to put this plan into action, and that we've kind of said, yep, this is something that we'll look at. And then obviously within the action plan, we need to look at what funding we've got to enable us to kind of do anything more in that regard.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out for councillors, signage and park information project is action 1D in the action plan on page 46, and there's budget for that. So I think that's looks like it's in hand, but thank you for raising that.
Right, my next question is, The cafe, I think, will be absolutely wonderful and will be a temptation for people to stop off there to enjoy it. But that's not going to be done by the councils, is it? You're going to actually make sure that one of the developments will have a cafe with it. Is that my understanding, Peter?
Yes, that's correct. At the moment, there may be a transitional phase where someone may wish to operate a caravan up there on the weekends if the demand's there for that, and it's worth their while financially to do that. But longer term, working with Thunder Ridge and the motorsport track, what they have proposed over there, we would certainly be looking at what are the integration opportunities to work with them on having a place where they have a sense of arrival to their space, and people might want to have a cafe, coffees type of thing. How can we make that available for the public as well, other than just the sports tracks users? So that's something that's going to work out through the detail, hopefully, with working with Thunder Ridge.
Motorsport, there's a bit of difficulty there with getting the independent track developed. Is that progressing reasonably well?
Councillor Murray Bench, this is meant to be about a strategic plan. That sounds more like a projects and monitoring type question.
Well, it's not.
I mean, if Peter wants to give a quick comment, but noting that it's, it does sound like a more operational discussion rather than a strategy as such. But Peter, why don't you have a crack?
Understand that, Your Worship. The short answer is yes, it's progressing very well.
Okay. Great, thank you. Right, I think we better move on to a different questioner. I've got Tracy next.
Margaret just asked my questions. I'm fine, thank you.
Awesome, great. Rodney.
I realise it's a strategy document, not a budget, but one of the great things about Tech Park is that it is largely self-funding. Is there anything in here that would cause any major expense to ratepayers, either of Western Bay or Tauranga?
Yes, there are things in there that will cause expense and that will be considered through LTP processes over the next however many LTPs. I think what that kind of recognises is, one, those things would probably happen regardless of the plan, because the park is very popular, it's highly valued, and the community are wanting to see more up there. So what the plan does is just put a bit more structure around it and give us something to kind of reference back in the future. I guess you could kind of compare it to when you adopt reserve management plans and like the waste management and minimisation plan, as they kind of set the scene for the activity or park or whatever. They kind of talk about the funding process in terms of, this doesn't mean everything's going to happen at once. It all has to be subject to LTP budgets and things like that. So we've tried to put that context around it in the same way that those other plans don't get a full detailed costing. Costings will come as we progress through things, but I can't say to you, no, there's no additional cost from this plan, because there will be, because there's additional infrastructure that's proposed in there. But that probably would happen regardless of whether or not we had the plan.
So I guess the difference up there is that we have forestry income.
Yeah.
And so that has taken some of the cost off the ratepayer. So can you just give us an idea of, because it is strategic to the park, that forestry income, how's that going, and what's expected from that in the future to help meet those costs?
Again, that
Are
sounds
we running out of forest?
That sounds like a bit of a projects and monitoring again.
Well, no, it's funding. I mean, if we're going to approve a plan and we don't have an idea.
Well, no,
where
but
we're gonna fund
asking
it from-
how is forestry going?
Well, I mean, is forestry able to sustain the spending? Yeah, it's absolutely strategic. in the
Okay,
Tech
Peter,
Park.
would you like to comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just noticed that Mr. Wheeler, the Tech Park manager, is probably a little bit closer to that than I am, so I might just pass it over to Bill.
Okay. Mr. Wheeler, would you like to put your microphone on?
Okay, thank you. Yes, so, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Currently, we're reaching the end of our peak of harvesting. So we're reaching the end of a 30-year cycle, which means that the reserve is looking reasonably comfortable. But we will be going into a 15 to 20 year period when there'll be less regular income coming through from the forestry. So there'll be outgoings for forest management, for thinning and pruning and those sorts of things. We'll also be taking back quite a significant proportion of the cutting rights from the pension fund. So there'll be establishment costs involved in that. But we're looking, obviously with those areas coming back, we're looking very good for the future and the continued income from the forestry. So it's reasonably healthy, yeah.
Great, thank you. Councillor Henry.
So, this park's got a long way to go, and a lot more money will be required to get it where it wants. The vision that the group who's doing that and the council have for it. So, but my concern is, or not concern, my question is around the understanding, and I didn't understand it, and I do know how it works now with Tauranga City, and our council provide the workforce for that, the development and the management of that park. And I'm very grateful that we are doing it, because it is an award-winning park, and largely to the work that's done by our staff up there. But in this analysis here, it doesn't necessarily show the contribution breakdown of how that park is funded, and we do see big lines going into Tech Park, and the community do too. So is there a way that we can show that there's equal or more amounts that are coming in from Tauranga City? It's not all Western Bay funded, which is what people might think when they look at our balance sheet.
Yeah, again, Councillor Henry, I think that's more the revenue and financing policy rather than a strategic plan, so we've just, we're about to prove our LTP, and in there you've got the funding mechanisms for that. Is there any further detail any staff member wants to provide on that?
Oh, it's just the plan does talk about the fact that it's a joint park between TCC and Western Bay. There's like a separate kind of management agreement that sits behind it that kind of outlines those roles and responsibilities that was agreed to when the park was first established. I'm not sure.
Common knowledge, though.
I think through the chair, when we get to the action plan implementation, which we make through annual plans and long-term plans, maybe it's about making clear through that process that where we're doing investment, where that money's coming from. So it's not just a line item. It's coming from forestry, or it's been offset through this, or collaboration with TCC.
Yeah, I
Being
think
very open about it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being open about it. I would suggest, though, that most people go up there to recreate and enjoy sports and facilities, not wonder how it's all funded. But some people will ask the question, undoubtedly. Okay, look, I think we've come to the end of the question. So we have 4 recommendations there, which is to adopt the strategy. I'm happy to move that. Is there a seconder? Councillor Murray-Benge. Speakers for and against? Councillor Murray-Benge.
I've known this park, as I said, right from its beginning, and I just think what we're achieving there is absolutely outstanding. Every so often we get an award for something that's happened up there, and while we've got staff present, I just want to say thank you so much for the work you do in making sure that we continue to progress that park. It's so needed, and I think Rotorua benefits considerably but don't contribute yet, and I would like to think, and we've tried over the years, but a lot of people actually from Rotorua work in the park clubs, and so we don't miss out in that regard. I hope that at some stage TECT will contribute more in the future, because there's an opportunity for them to do so. They've got naming rights, and they actually made sure that we had TECT Park could be established.
I'm suggesting that point of order, I think you might be getting into a conflict of interest section there with the nominations I saw for TECT.
Well, he hasn't been elected, so how do you know? So
I know. I think if you're standing, that's getting pretty close to.
So I am not standing.
I know you're not standing,
And I am
but
a
your partner
councillor
is.
with Western Bay, and I'm entitled to my opinion. And my opinion is, I like what Tect Park is achieving. I'd like to think that Tect, and as they find extra funding, that they look at all sources, including Tect. It's been raised, you don't want it to fall back on ratepayers. So I think, sir, as to Mr. Watson, the leader in this, well done. To Mr. Wheeler, managing it, well done. And I think we're just lucky to have it. And I hope that the trouble you have with boy races on occasion, that the police come in and actually support and do a blitz on that at some stage. So, sir, very happy to support the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Murray Bench. Any other speakers? No, I just got a few words. I think it's as others have said, it's a fantastic facility. I'm looking forward to the next steps, the next stage in the journey, and particularly the commercial activities where there'll be far more opportunity for people to turn up, get involved in an activity, pay the money, enjoy a day, and then go home again. I think that's where the real potential lies, and whether that's in motorsport or other activities, we'll see. But looking forward to that, and I think good luck for the next step. Okay, so I think with that we'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. And with that, we'll